Well, there was a new all-time high on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average surged nearly 600 points. The rally fueled by the stocks of energy companies, including Chevron, Exxon, and ConocoPhillips. Chevron is the only American oil company that currently operates in Venezuela, which is the country with the biggest supply of oil reserves in the world. But it doesn't actually distribute a lot of that oil. Less than 1% of all of the world's oil right now is from Venezuela. President Trump says that U.S. oil companies will be investing billions of dollars to rebuild Venezuela's broken oil infrastructure. Oil companies haven't yet laid out specifics for how that will work. Joining us to discuss all of this is Clayton Siegel, who's a senior fellow in the Energy Security and Climate Change Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Clayton, great to have you here. When we're thinking about what this means, these U.S. companies going in and investing in Venezuela, curious, what does that look like to you? Do you see that actually happening as the president is pledging they will do?
Hi, Elizabeth. Good to be with you. You know, we don't know the answer to that question yet, but I surmise that U.S. energy companies are kind of in the same boat as the rest of us today, trying to understand what has changed in Venezuela since the weekend and how to reevaluate and update the risks and potential rewards of working in Venezuela as a host country. I think the president got a lot of important things right during his remarks over the weekend. Venezuela sits atop tremendous oil resources, more than 300 billion barrels. The type of oil that Venezuela has does match very well with the refineries in the United States, especially in the Gulf Coast region. And United States oil companies have a rich heritage of working together with the Venezuelans to bring that resource to market. He's also right that assets got seized during earlier rounds of the Venezuelan government's expropriations related to the nationalization of its industry, first in the 1970s, again in the 2000s. When it comes to expectations for what should happen next, though, we do have a lot more questions than answers. And so the president seemed to indicate that U.S. oil companies would decide to invest billions of their own dollars, which I think he's right will be required to revitalize Venezuela's dilapidated oil and energy sector, and that they would maybe get paid back later under favorable terms, which have not yet been defined. But the very first thing that oil companies are going to think about is what is the state of political risk in the host country? And as of today, we really don't have a good indication of which way that's going.
What would it actually look like to rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure? What kind of timeline are we looking at there?
I think there's basically two tranches of production growth. And so kind of the low-hanging fruit would be to come in and do the easy work, relatively easy, like workovers of existing wells. That means going into the wells with very skilled oil field services companies and their technologies and repairing and conducting maintenance on those wells. If you did that over a period of a year or two, you could probably get another 500 million barrels per day of oil from Venezuela. And let's face it, with 1 million barrels a day base, that's about a 50% increase. And that probably is worth doing at a relatively low cost of only hundreds of millions of dollars or maybe low billions. The bigger part of restoring Venezuela to its earlier growth pattern of like 3.5 million barrels per day, that's going to require billions of dollars of investment, tens of billions over a period of probably 3, 5, maybe even more years. And until companies see that political stability, favorable fiscal terms, tax and royalty arrangements, I think that they're going to continue to de-risk that opportunity versus others in a global portfolio.
And a lot of questions, too, how profitable that would be, oil at $60 or less a barrel. Clayton Siegel, thanks so much for being on. Great to chat with you.
Thank you.